Welcome to Trail Manners, the podcast so dedicated to mountain trails and running that they broadcast out of a 78 Volkswagen bus in the mountains. Who does that? Eric and Joel are your hosts and will bring you the trail life as you may have not heard it before. You hear about everything from gear reviews, nutrition to keep you upright and moving forward, and they'll even bring guests into the bus for conversations that you won't hear anywhere else. It's time for some running adventures on a higher elevation. The old 78 Volkswagen bus is fired up and headed to the mountains. Here are your hosts for Trail Manners, proudly representing the 801 with their passion and love for the trails. Eric Manning and Joel Hatch.
Welcome to the Trail Manners Podcast, episode number 30. Today, we're going to be talking with Mr. Eric Johnson. So if this is your first time listening, then thanks for coming. The Trail Manners Podcast is produced every week for your enjoyment, and show notes are found at trailmanners.com. Come back often, and please feel free to add the podcast to your favorite RSS feed or iTunes. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Trail Manners. All links are in the show notes. Now let's get after it. All right, welcome back to the Trail Manners Podcast. I can't say we have a special guest with us today because Joel always ribs me on that, but we have an awesome guest with us today.
That's
I'm with Joel. We're sitting here at Mount Ogden Park in beautiful Ogden, Utah. Trails, mountains, green all around us. And Joel, why don't you bring in our guest today?
All right, so we have like one of the OGs, right? One of the original guys in the ultra running world. We have Eric Johnson with us. Eric has been doing ultras since at least 92. Ran Wasatch for the first time in 1992. Easily the hardest 100 at the time. Western States was around, Vermont was around, Old Dominion was around, but nothing like the old Wasatch here. So he's been around. He's done, over 74 races?
Oh, easily, probably over 100. That's Ultra Sign Up doesn't keep track back then. I don't think kind of some of those.
He's done some, what I would consider graduate level runs. Ran up in the Arctic a couple times. Has an affinity for that. So, with us today, like Eric says in the past, we have, super special guy with us, Eric Johnson. Thanks for joining us. How you doing?
Good, thank you.
Awesome. So, like we mentioned, you did your very first 100 in 1992.
I did. I signed up for Wasatch in June.
Yeah.
Just after Memorial Day, 1992.
Isn't that crazy that you were able to do that? Now you got to go through that whole process of getting in the lottery. You don't have to do it. I mean, you're grandfathered in, obviously. But that's pretty cool that we've come that far. But thinking back upon that, that's awesome that you were able to do that then. I'm just going to jump in this.
There was, I believe, 120, maybe 125 people that entered that year.
Yeah.
And I believe there was about 87 that finished. I think I was 85th. That was really a painful 35 hours.
That's still impressive. Leading up to that, had you been like doing marathons and stuff like that?
I had done my first marathon was in 1990, which was St. George. And then I did St. George again in 91. I had done LA Marathon once. So I had done 3 marathons. And then went from 3 marathons straight to Wasatch. I wouldn't recommend it. It's kind of painful.
Right. So what compelled you to do that? I mean, what was the driving force to be like, I'm just going to go out and do this 100-miler because it sounds cool, or was there something else?
Well, my fiance at the time, her brother had tried Wasatch twice before and had bailed.
Gotcha.
So he had signed up, and he had another friend that had signed up, and there was another guy, Brian Stromberg in Ogden, that had tried it a couple times and had was unsuccessful.
Right.
And so he said, "Hey, you're a strong hiker. You kind of dab a little bit in the running. There's this cool race." I'm like, "Okay." Well, so I signed up in June, and it was initiation by significant fire.
Yeah.
No internet, no way to really disseminate information.
Right.
So it was all trial and error and suffering.
Yeah. Before we started the interview, we were talking a little bit about just, what you actually did back in the day as far as, learning and the gear you used or the gear you didn't use. So talk a little bit about that. So especially like the headlamp. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Was awesome.
Yeah, the headlamp, I had this old green kind of army green headlamp. I think it took like 4 AA batteries. I bought it at Rec Outlet there in Salt Lake off of, State Street and 30th or something.
Right.
It was just a piece of junk.
Right.
I had to carry an extra bulb. I had to carry extra batteries. It flopped around.
How much did it weigh?
I don't even.
Good 10, 15
I
pounds?
got like neck cramps, and so I kind of graduated from that to a mag light.
Yeah.
I think there was one guy in '93 that showed up at Wasatch with a Big Bird flashlight. He didn't have a headlamp. I think he was pretty desperate, but. I just had like this little mag light that was like 2 AA batteries, no trail gaiters, no trail running shoes. I didn't even know you could wear 2 pair of socks to prevent blisters. I showed up in these tiny, ultra thin Nike socks.
Yeah.
And it was horrible. I had fun, but it was just one of those experiences that you'd rather not repeat.
Right.
But the headlamp, those things were dinosaurs. It was so nice when Petzl came out with something that was a little more user friendly, especially that headlamp from Rec Outlet. It had those big AA batteries, those alkalines. You had to carry an extra bulb.
Right.
And I think the batteries lasted maybe 4 hours.
Oh, my goodness.
So you're constantly
Plenty
having
of
to
time.
carry batteries,
Right.
change batteries, worry about if the bulb was going to burn out.
Right.
And it just flopped. It was almost easier to hold it,
Right.
carry it.
Yeah.
Carry your headlamp. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So was that the type of headlamp that went around your head and had that middle strap?
No,
too?
no. It was more like a head. It was like a big weight on a headband,
Okay.
like John McEnroe would wear.
Oh, nice description.
Yeah,
Those are sweet.
like literally like a
You got
sweat
some
headband
points for getting John McEnroe in the conversation.
with this awkward, clumsy, klutzy pack of batteries in this. It was like something you'd use in a coal mine in West Virginia.
Totally.
Super awkward.
Right?
Yeah, the ones now are so nice.
Oh, they are.
So in 1992, shoe-wise, I'm sure there were plenty of trail options. You had like the Converse Chuck Taylor high top version,
Yeah, I had a pair of Nike Air Max, which, by the way, I still have those insoles.
Wow.
Those original insoles.
From 1992.
From 1992, and I wear them on occasion just for nostalgia, just to remind myself of kind of where I was
Yeah.
and where I am now. I mean, I was 26 then, 50 now, so it feels good to pull those bad boys out and just
Right.
put them in your shoes just for nostalgia.
Wow. So what other kind of big changes? I mean, there's so much that's changed since '92. But tell us what you did for, like, did you carry a canteen, like fires a water bottle?
Well, actually, I bought a
Camel train.
I had a specialized fanny pack that I got from Bingham Cyclery here in Ogden, and Ultimate Direction was just coming out then.
Oh wow.
But I had a specialized fanny pack with water bottles that always leaked. Like always leaked. It was the horror. Always leaked. Just an awkward fanny pack. The one stuff we have now is just so much better.
So what'd you guys do for food then?
Yeah. MREs. I mean, we got
It's pretty much the same thing now.
Really?
Peanut butter and jellies?
Peanut butter jelly, potato chips.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything edible. No goos
Yeah.
back then.
No, there wasn't.
No goos. No fancy like shot blocks,
Yeah.
which is just like expensive sugar.
Yeah, pretty much. It's conveniently to carry that sugar.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. But nothing like that at all. It was just eat whatever your stomach can handle.
Right.
Coke and the standard normal junk food.
Right. So as much as things have changed, some things haven't, which is kind of nice to see, right? That suffering is still there,
Oh yeah, gotta love that.
Right. It's still there. So you had like from 92 to what, 2002? So you had about a 10-year break?
2001, I signed up for Squaw Peak literally about a week before. The Squaw Peak 50.
Right.
So I took 9 years off between 92 and 2001. Got into mountaineering, climbing.
Yeah.
Did some things there.
So let's back up and talk a little bit about that climbing, because I think, we got some fans of the climbing world. So what'd you do? Anything say significant?
No, not. I mean, I spent as much time in the Tetons as possible.
Right.
Multiple routes on the Grand.
Yeah.
Of course, Wind Rivers, I spent absolutely as much time as possible in the Wind Rivers. Did a 3-week trip on McKinley in May of 96. In fact, we were at the 14,000-foot base camp when the tragedy on Everest came over NPR.
Right.
Oh, wow.
And I believe that was like maybe May 10th, May 11th.
Right.
And that was bizarre.
I'm sure.
Because it just put this air of this dampness, this emotional dampness over everything. So I was there, didn't summit, got to almost Denali Pass, and the weather was not cooperating.
Right.
And of course, I mean, I was married then, and starting a family.
Yeah. Can't take that risk.
Yeah. So, but in 2001, I got back in and been doing as many races as possible since 2001.
That's really impressive.
So what have been some of your favorite races, like ones that you look back and say that was not just because of maybe a time, but maybe location, trail, scenery, how it's run? What have you done?
Favorite races, most memorable? I have a prejudice for Arctic Ultras.
Is that relatively new?
Yeah, it is. Yes. Arrowhead 135, Susitna 100, done Susitna 100 a couple times. First year I did Susitna 100 was in 2004. Then I went back in 2005. And then I've done Arrowhead, the 135 4 times. And then I did Iditarod Trail Invitational 350 in 2006.
That's 350 miles, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I really, I'm in love with the Iditarod Trail. I have a special place for Wasatch. I finished it 11 times, and I'm happy to have, 11 for 11.
Right.
Wow, that's impressive.
The bear, just because I grew up in Logan, spent a lot of time in Logan. Well, I lived in Logan for 20 years.
Right.
Went to Logan High, graduated from Utah State. So the bear, Logan to Bear Lake, is special. I bailed out at mile 75. I think I was just feeling sorry for myself. It'd been raining and snowing, and what was it, 2007?
Oh yeah.
So I kind of bailed. I hate taking that ride of shame.
Sure.
Back to the start.
Yeah.
Or wherever you have to go. That's like the whole worst feeling.
A lot goes through your mind on that drive.
Yeah.
Could have done this shit.
Always
I can't
second
believe
questioning
this.
yourself.
Regret.
Yeah.
Yep. And that'll linger.
Yeah.
So how did you get into the art? I mean, we're going to touch on it a little bit later in the show, but how did you get into the Arctic stuff? I mean, was that coming from your climbing background a little bit, kind of mixing marrying the two together, or how did that come about?
Well, I've never done well in heat.
Amen to that. Maybe I'm in the wrong area.
I don't particularly perform well in the heat. So,
but yet you've done Wasatch 11 times. Wasatch is not exactly cold.
No, it's not. And I think what was the really, really bad year of Wasatch? That would have been 2004. It was so hot.
Yeah.
Coming out of Lambs Canyon. Not Lambs Canyon, Big Mountain. Or not Big Mountain. What is that? Yeah, Big Mountain, mile 39. That aid station from there over to Alexander Springs.
Yeah.
It's one of the worst moments ever in my memory.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I was laying in the grass, puking, throwing up. Tom Remke stopped, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, no. I'm really not okay.
And then did Tom laugh at you and keep going like he normally does?
I'm pretty sure he did. It's like one of those questions like, "Are you okay?" It's like, well, I'm in the leaves.
Right. Yeah.
I've got vomit goo dripping out of my nose. I look like shit.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'm not good, but thanks for asking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See you later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Nothing to see here.
Yeah,
Come on.
yeah. So I don't do well in the heat. So I had a subscription to ultra running, and I saw an advertisement for the Susitna 100 in Alaska, and I'm like, I got to sign up for this. This looks cool.
Right.
This looks like, I'm onto this. So I signed up and made my own homemade sled out of like a kiddie sled I got at Walmart, and a harness, and there's no pacers, no drop bags. That was intriguing.
Right.
And I think I finished in like 28 hours, 28 and a half hours or something.
Wow.
And this is all just on foot travel?
On foot travel,
not,
yeah.
Not skis, not
skis,
snowshoes?
It's straight foot.
Okay.
And I believe there were kind of unofficially about 6 places where you could get water or maybe something to eat.
Okay.
No drop bags, so you had to carry everything.
Right.
And they
in between,
they
had
had
to carry
required
everything.
gear.
Right.
And did that and loved it. Just loved the solitude, loved the cold, loved the snow, loved the challenge, and signed up again in 2005.
Right.
And I was back, and then I ran into a guy who said, hey, they've got this 350 thing. I'm like, okay, that sounds cool. So I signed up for that, and it was more of the same kind of philosophy, more self-sufficient.
Right.
And just, it was like love at first sight. Loved everything about it. The people were super cool. Just being out there for that many miles, it was love. I love that race. Everything about it.
What was the time frame on that one, the 350, your first time?
I believe it was about 7 days, 15 hours.
Wow. And it's just pretty much solo other than maybe another
you get 2 drop bags. You'd get a drop bag at mile 130 and then a drop bag at mile 200.
So we put
no
those
more
drop
than
bags.
10 pounds. Well,
No more than 10 pounds?
No, yeah, it's 10-pound limit
Wow.
Per bag.
per bag. Otherwise, you have to carry everything. And it was only expendable items. Fuel for a stove, batteries for a headlamp, food, I guess vitamins, supplements, things that you utilize,
Gotcha.
that you expend.
Right.
So, you can't put extra socks. That's considered survival gear. So you had to carry all of that. No extra shoes. So all of that you had to carry from the start in a sled.
Right. So there's so many questions.
I know,
can
right?
ask on
It's
this.
like
So how do you prepare for this, right? So what's the time frame that you're using to prepare for this? Is it 3 months? Is it 6 months? I mean, what's your gear? Dude, what's your gear look like for this? We need a picture of this.
So let me think about this. So in 2005, I did Wasatch, and then it was the inaugural year of the Grand Teton
Oh yeah,
races
the 100.
out of
Yeah.
Driggs.
Yep.
So I did Wasatch, then I did the Grand Teton, and then 3 weeks later, I did this thing called I call it. I remember living in Logan, Dana Miller,
Oh, yeah.
who's
Mud and Guts.
Miller.
Guts.
Yeah, I love that guy. He had done like a double Grand Canyon, and I'm like, oh, double. What about a triple? So I went down and did a triple crossing. I call it triple double just because it sounded
Triple
interesting.
Yeah.
Basketball, whatever. It just rang well. So I did the triple double Grand Canyon thing. Did it solo, no pacers, nothing. Just drove down,
Jumped
did
in the
it, jumped
canyon.
in, drove home. Yeah. And then from that, I signed up for the ITI 350 in December, and then I just go to Monte Cristo 2 or 3 nights a week and just pull a sled and run. Just go out, grab a sled.
Chuck some rocks and wade into it. And
But I mean, that sounds super simple, but there's got to be like more planning,
it's really
right?
complicated. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to have all your gear dialed.
Yeah. So what
you
kind
gotta
of gear
have-
are you taking? Just give us a snippet, because I'm sure there's way too much. We don't have enough time to talk about it all, but
Yeah, and I'd love to come back and talk more about that. But it's the key is you've got to ventilate. You've
Okay.
got to be able to have something that's thin, that has zippers that you can ventilate. So if you start to sweat,
we can move that off quick so you don't get cold.
you can either roll your sleeves up or unzip it to
Right.
ventilate, to control moisture. That's a big problem.
Right.
If it's in regular races, it's not a problem. But if it's minus 30
Right.
or minus 40
that sounds pretty cold.
or, worse, moisture is a big problem. You're sunk.
Right.
You've got to really try to stay dry. Damp is unavoidable, but you can't get wet.
Right.
So clothing, that's always a really super difficult question. But main thing is zippers and ventilation.
And so you have backup of all that stuff on your sled then?
Yes.
Do you have a backup to your backup?
No.
Because of weight and
'Cause
what
of
you want to
weight.
carry.
Okay.
Right.
Look, I'm thinking of this, and I'm like, okay, I run a 50-mile race. I'm looking at, elevation, where the aid stations are, calories per hour, and you're talking about
That's too much work.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is what you're doing here. It's like, okay, I'm out there for 7 days, 6 days, 5 days. It's just the planning of that with
so
your
what do you
gear. Like,
eat?
okay, how much fuel am I going to expend, and how many calories?
Oh,
do
I never
need to
think
take?
about
And
that.
You just grab some stuff and get after it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, at least for that race, the first checkpoint isn't until mile 55. So you're from start to 55 on your own.
For basically a day, right?
Yeah, I mean, the race started at 2 p.m., which I've always wondered. I think that's just to make you, I don't know. It's just, anyway, it starts at 2 p.m., and then by the time you get to the first checkpoint, it's probably 6 a.m.
Wow.
So you're on your feet 16 hours
Before
roughly
even-
before you get to the first place to, and then you get some, like I think that year I had 3 grilled cheese sandwiches, 2 bowls of soup, a couple cups of coffee, juice, milk. Like you're famished. Like you just eat so much, as much as possible.
Whatever they
It
put
didn't
in
just
front
go
of you.
someplace.
Right. So what are you eating in between checkpoints normally?
I'm a big fan of Ensure,
Okay.
the high calorie 350 stuff.
Right.
And I have sewn into my pockets on my undershirt 2 places I can put 2 cans or 2 bottles. So if it freezes, it thaws pretty fast.
Right.
And so I try to take as much of that as possible.
So when you get to these checkpoints, are you taking a quick nap at that point?
Well, at least for the ITI 350, I wouldn't sleep there. Usually I would sleep first at mile 95.
And is that a checkpoint or is that
It's a
just kind-
checkpoint.
out in the course?
Yeah.
So do they have a
checkpoint.
place kind of for you to step to the side and take a
Yeah,
little nap?
it's called a roadhouse, which is just a small cabin.
Right.
Basically, you sleep on the floor, you get a bed, sleep wherever you can.
Right.
So in your sled, do you have like a bivy sack, a sleeping bag, something like that for those purposes?
Sleeping bag, down jacket, yeah. Just emergency. I don't like bivvying on the trail. It's way too much work.
Yeah.
It's just much better to sleep someplace that's covered.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, the next one, I mean, you realistically, I mean, around here in the Ogden area, I mean, Amy Donaldson did a great article in the Deseret News, but you've done the 1,000-mile Iditarod course.
I did. I finished that March 25th, I believe, was when that was Friday. That took 25 days. So what that is essentially the Iditarod Trail that starts just outside of Anchorage in south central Alaska and heads northwest toward the Bering Sea. So it's basically the full Iditarod Trail. So the 350 is the first 350 of the 1,000.
Right.
So I finished the first 350 race 2006, 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2013. I bailed out in 2007. 2007 was just a really bad year. Bailed out at mile 200. I got into some knee-deep, what's called overflow, on the Tatina River about 10 o'clock at night. And, you're by yourself, and I'm wading through essentially a Slurpee.
Oh.
A really wet Slurpee, knee-deep. And that's just really bad at sub-zero temperatures when it's dark and you're by yourself. And you're in tennis, Solomon running shoes, trail shoes. That nothing good happens.
No.
There's no
In
good
those
outcome
situations.
there.
No, it's just all bad. So anyway, I ended up bailing then, and then decided that I really, really wanted to do the 1,000. I really wanted to do the full trail. So we started February 28th at 2 p.m., and I finished about 9:30 Friday, March 25th. That was an absolute jewel.
Wow.
I'm telling you, that race it's the race. I've said that to people. I mean, I have friends in Salt Lake that are ultra runners. I'm like, this is the race. This is the race.
And did they just give you that look like, no, you're just
You're
crazy?
insane.
Yeah.
Well,
kind of like I'm looking at you right now.
Yeah, I know me and Joel, they got our job. What?
And I'll tell you why. And I feel pretty strong about this, is that and we live in a really, really over-regulated world of rules and stuff.
Sure.
And people whining about, the checkpoint. They think, I got to go 5 miles before there's an aid station? What?
Yeah.
5 miles? What? Get real.
Yeah.
I mean, you're missing the point. So this is why. is that there's no required gear. No required gear. You can show up with anything you want.
Are you serious?
I'm being dead serious. So like the Susitna 100, they check your gear. They check your sleeping bag. Is it minus 20? Do you have, a headlamp?
Yeah. Do you have a backup headlamp?
Do you have Do you have something that holds water? Do you have a stove? Do you have fuel? Do you know how to use it? Do you have all of these things? So Arrowhead, they check your gear. The Yukon Arctic Ultra, I think they do everything but take you to the finish. It's so overregulated. Like they have people checking on you.
Right.
Like if I need to be checked on, maybe I shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
So
I agree.
So, the Arrowhead 135, they check your gear, and I get that. That only has 2 aid stations.
Ooh.
Well, I guess you could argue 3.
Yeah.
But really 2 that are legit.
Right.
Mile 35, 75, and then a little tent at mile 100.
Right.
So all these other Arctic Ultra races, they have somebody checking your gear, and they have required gear. They make those decisions for you.
Right.
What to carry. And that deletes out a lot of the stress and anxiety of the race because someone's making those tough decisions for you. If someone's making those hard decisions for you, it's easy, but it's also less rewarding.
Okay.
So one, they don't check your gear. You carry what you want. They don't tell you when you can rest and when you should travel.
Right.
If it's minus 60 wind chill, you want to go ahead.
Right.
Go ahead.
They probably have a pretty strong waiver to sign.
I think they do.
Yeah.
But they also weed people out really, really well. They don't want a high maintenance kind of athlete. They want somebody who's there for all the right reasons.
Right.
Who is in love with the sport and adheres to that kind of philosophy and is willing to take those risks.
So this is almost like Barkley, for the Arctic in a way.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's not
close,
necessarily always marked either.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the next thing is.
So how do you find your way then?
I mean, you're in snow.
Well,
Yeah, snow and ice.
White
I mean,
out.
it's all frozen. Yeah. So it's you kind of just find your way. I mean, this is a really classic story. In 2000, what year would that have been? That would have been 2007. I remember I was there. I was going up the Susitna River, and Diane Van Deerden, I believe that's her name.
Yeah,
She was a North Face sponsored athlete. And Cammie, I can't remember who she was with. Simic?
Yeah.
Possibly?
Probably North Face too.
Yeah, and they were following me up the Susitna River. And they had kind of an entourage of North Face people doing their thing. And I remember we were going up, and I was taking a shortcut. Well, I knew it was a shortcut because it could save time. Because they don't really care how you get from point A to point B as long as you get from point A to point B.
Oh, okay.
So you can kind of go any way you want, but
Right.
there's not really that many options.
Gotcha.
But I knew if I faded left on the river, I would cut out the corner. So I remember they were following me, and they're like, "Dude, you're going the wrong way." I'm like, "No, I'm not. I've been here like a couple times."
Right.
And so I'm like, "Well, just get your map out. It's you'll see on your map." And they're like, "Well, we don't have a map." I'm like, "You don't have a map? You don't have a map? Are you kidding? No map?" Because I was just totally screwing with them. Because I could.
Right.
And it's like 3 a.m. or I don't know what, midnight or something. I don't know. So you just kind of go where you want.
Right.
But there's not that many options again. So, I remember that the year before that, I remember coming to a fork, and I'm like, I'm not really sure where to go. Do I go right? Do I go left? And I'm like, yeah, I think I kind of go right. So I go right, and I get maybe a quarter of a mile, and I hear the hum of a snow machine. So I'm like, maybe I should ask them. So I turn around and sprint, hauling ass back to that fork, and there's like some partially drunk native guy on a snow machine. And I'm like, how do you get to Nikolai? And he's like, what? I'm like, how do you get to Nikolai? He's like, not that way. So he's pointing the way that
you were at.
Yeah. He's like, and he's just reeked with alcohol. And this was like 10 a.m. Like, who's drunk at 10 a.m. on a snowmobile? Well, it's called Native Alaskan, is what it's called. And he offered me he stopped and he pulled his seat up and he's like, you got some brandy? I'm like, dude, I don't really want any of that. I'm good. You know, he was ready to party.
Brandy and walrus jerky ready to go.
So he's like, you go that way. So I took off that way and I got to where I needed to go. But if that really gets under your skin, then those kind of races are not good for you.
So the people that need all the markers between mile 2 and 7 and things like that, they may want to stay away from this stuff.
Yeah. Because to me, you have to love being out there and you have to just love the adventure. That's, to me, the big thing about ultra running is just the adventure and just the process of learning and engaging the trail.
Right.
And just accepting what you get and be happy.
And that's at any distance, really.
Any distance. I don't care if it's a 50K. It doesn't matter. The most important thing is you've got to be having fun. You've got to be having fun. Above and beyond everything else, you've got to love the adventure and you've got to enjoy it. You just got to love it.
And you got to also remember, as much as you're saying have fun, enjoy it, there's going to come those times when mentally you're not enjoying it, you're suffering, but it's part of the experience.
Right, you hate it. But the thing is, 80 to 90% of those types of issues or those types of races are fun. It's the 10 to 20% that'll get you.
Yeah.
But the problem is you have to pay the price. You have to pay out the debt, the 10 to 20%, to get the 80 to 90.
Yeah.
That
makes sense.
That's the thing. You know, and who was it? Famous British mountaineer. His definition of adventure was getting off the treadmill of the obvious. So I like it.
Yeah.
It fits. That works for me. So that's one of the intriguing things and why I think that race is such an amazing experience for the competitors.
Well, and when you say competitors, if I remember right, there were 6 people that attempted this race and 5 finished, right? Is that right?
5 started.
5 started, okay.
5 started the 1,000 on foot, and 4 of us finished.
Wow.
Peter Ripmaster, who I have a tremendous amount of respect for, decided that it wasn't his year.
Yeah.
At mile 500.
What? Mile 500. That's unreal that you're going to hear that, right?
Yeah. I think we'd slept just off the trail at about mile 440, and we'd gotten up, and we were both really groggy. And we thought, we got about a 60-mile day. And long story short, he didn't have his head in the game. He just wasn't there.
Right.
So he gets to 500, and he's like, I think I'm really done.
So it's like I would imagine, kind of a small community, though, the people that
really
do this
small.
type of thing, to where
really
you're very, these people extremely well, right?
Well, I had never met Peter. I just ran into him on the trail, and we became just instant friends.
Well, you got to imagine you guys have so much. I mean, that's a pretty small niche of having something in common with somebody.
Yeah. But you're all kind of dysfunctional at heart.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, yeah.
But so it works. There's a little bit of dysfunction. I think that the distance between brilliance and stupidity is pretty tight. It's pretty small at times.
Well, I'm still
hopefully you stay more on the brilliant side and stay out of the idiot.
Right.
But it's inevitable you're going to end up kind of an idiot at times.
So to get to that point, to the Iditarod, you're doing I guess you're, no lack of a better word, your feet wet. You want to do the 100, the Susitna and the
you got to do, it's baby steps. You got to,
right.
know, it's a gradual process of learning and knowing what you can do nutrition-wise and mentally, kind of going step to step.
Right.
As far as checkpoints, gear. The other thing is you could what if yourself crazy in those kind of races because you don't have a crew, you don't have a pacer, you don't have the things that all of the things that you might want. If you're like, well, I might need this, so you put it in your sled. You might need this, but well, we call it the rookie bulge. As you can tell who the new guys are, right? Because they're packing everything. They have all of the what ifs in their sled,
right? Gotcha.
And they're usually a little not always arrogant, but they just like, dude, you need to turn it down a notch,
right?
Because you're gonna get eaten up here.
Literally.
Literally, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
And there was a guy in 2010. I can't remember his name. I think he was in Colorado, but all the veterans were just looking at each other going, the guy's in trouble. And he got into some water, some overflow on one of the rivers because he wasn't paying attention. And almost bailed at mile 13.
Oh my goodness.
But people have a tendency in those races to pack their insecurities. So you can always tell who the rookies are because you have everything that you might need. But the issue is, what do you really need?
And speaking of, so if you're in one of those, do you have to carry like a sat phone or some type of extraction device?
There's no required gear. No, not for the... Wow. And I don't want a sat phone.
You're having a hard time with that.
Well, I'm just trying to think.
I don't want a sat phone.
Like when you say, a mile 500 he bailed or something like that, I just didn't know if there was some type of magic, the button that the
there's no
people,
magic safe button.
Get up. Yeah.
No.
So
you can. I think if people have to emotionally have those, they probably shouldn't do it.
Sure.
So what if you get into a place, you're way in between these checkpoints, and you, like this gentleman at mile 13, gets super wet and it's 60 degrees. I mean, at that point, you're just trying to keep yourself warm on your own to survive, right?
Figure it out, dude.
Wow, that's insane. That's awesome.
It's probably a good idea to, have an extra pair of shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are these snowmobile trails that you guys are on?
It's basically a semi-pack snow machine trail.
That's what I was going to say.
And the other thing about the 1,000 is beyond 350, there are no checkpoints.
Uh-huh.
You're on your own.
750 miles to just get it.
Wait, so you're on your own, carrying your own stuff for 20 days?
Yeah. I forgot. The race does give you a drop bag at mile 450. But no more than 10 pounds.
Okay.
No, are you serious? No more than 10 pounds? You're messing with me, dude.
Dude, I'm not.
How much is your sled weigh?
I think it was 40 to 50 pounds.
Oh, my gosh.
And you're just tugging that along.
Uh-huh.
And most of that is food?
No, I don't really.
Well, what do you eat down there if it's not mostly food? Are you just like eating the rookies when they die?
Yeah, I know, right?
Well,
going through their sled?
Well, the people who drop out of the 1,000, they still have their drop bag.
Right.
So it's all fair game.
Oh, so you got to get there first.
To get the good,
yeah.
So you can kind of rummage through their stuff, and
you can leave a little note, say, "I got it, sucker."
But people kind of know who's where, and
right.
yeah.
That's
so awesome. But at that point, you're kind of just going from village to village, like on the Yukon.
So can you stop in the village and get food?
Yeah, if the store's open.
Yeah.
Or if they have a store.
Yeah. Swipe your American Express.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, like the first village on the Yukon on the northern route is at mile 500 was Ruby, and there's 130 people.
Right.
So I don't even know if they had a store.
Right.
They had a bed and breakfast because I made reservations before, which basically was some dude's house. It's some dude's house.
Are you serious? Like on the
Making
course, you're like, oh, that's right. There's a B&B
Yeah.
up here that I'm going to spend the night in.
Yeah.
I made reservations.
Now, wait a minute. So how does that jive with your mentality of, I want to be out there, I want to do it on my own, but then you got this B&B, man?
Well, it's not really a B. I mean, it's a guy's house that he kicks his 5-year-old out of his Ninja Turtle bedroom, and you sleep in Ninja Turtle sheets.
Dropped you down
a
a
lot better
well.
than sleeping at 60 below, right?
It's way better. It's way better than sleeping at 10 below. But I literally get into Ruby at about 3 a.m. and I'm looking for this dude's house. And he said, well, it's a yellow house. No, it's a green house down on the river.
Well, all the houses are on the river.
But he doesn't have pretty much, yes.
Right.
And they're all kind of green.
Yeah.
And it is 3 a.m. and you just did 60 miles. And you're kind of tired.
And you're knocking on everybody's door.
Well,
hoping
there
you
was
don't
a
get
church.
shot.
There was a Bible church that was open because the Iditarod sled dog race was going on at the same time. So my phone had died. So I sneak in this Bible church. It's basically a log cabin that's 100 years old, and there's a bunch of old guys snoring with sleep apnea in there. Basically is what it is. So I call him like, I can't find your house. He's like, well, where are you at? I'm like, I'm at the church. He's like, well, go down the hill, go to this guy's pickup. It's probably a white pickup parked there. Turn right, go around the back of the house, and go in the middle door. So you're like, I just did 60 miles. Can you give me a little more?
Yeah,
but it literally took me 45 minutes to find his place. Because it's not like he has a sign in neon red B&B.
Yeah.
It's just, Ninja Turtle bed. So I finally find it, and I go in, and I was trashed.
That's
trashed.
still amazing.
Yeah, and so I think I don't know what I had. He didn't make me anything. He's not going to offer me anything to eat at 4 a.m.
Well, I hope he got a discount then.
Yeah.
I can't remember how much it was. It was worth it.
Yeah, well, how much was it? I mean, come on, ballpark it. 100?
I think it was like 150.
Was it
and
worth?
I tipped him.
Was it worth 150?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I took a shower.
Oh,
I only had
bet
2
that was
showers the whole
magic.
1,000, so that was it was kind of cool. It was good, yeah. And then I had breakfast. Well, I slept, and then I had breakfast, and then I went back to bed again, and got up and ate, and then took another nap, and then packed up and left. And I left his place at 9 p.m.
Wow.
For a roughly 52-mile
Right.
trip down the Yukon. So I stayed there. I got there like at 4 a.m. I left at 9 p.m. So, I think it was like $150. So, meals, and then I tipped him.
Yeah.
and-
Every penny was worth it, wasn't it?
yeah.
Those Ninja Turtle sheets were.
Oh, yeah. They
heaven.
were sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know it sounds like foo-foo,
No,
B&B.
I know.
But it's
it wasn't.
basically just a Ninja Turtle bed,
Yeah.
which is so nice. But then, I left Ruby at 9 p.m., and I think that night on the Yukon, it was probably 25 below.
Oh man.
And I pulled into the Galena, the next village, about 2:30 p.m. So 9 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. the next day. So you go all night, all morning.
So what? How many pairs of socks you wearing?
2.
And do you have gaiters that cover the bottom of your shoes too?
Just ankle gaiters.
Just like the ones you're gonna wear here.
Yeah,
Just hiking around.
That's it.
exact.
Dang, dude. You
Exact.
got some tough feet, man. My toes are cold right now thinking about this.
It helps if you like the cold and just do
Yeah,
well in the
that's
cold.
true.
And I've always done really pretty well in the cold.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm wearing Solomon. I think I had XA Comp 5s on,
Right.
which I love those shoes. They're mesh, too.
Oh, well, yeah. Why not?
So the breathable. 'Cause you don't
breathable.
want to get wet while you're up there. Right.
Yeah, and then I had extra shoes. I had the XA Comp,
Yeah.
their Climb Shield or whatever
Right.
version of Gore-Tex was.
Gotcha.
So for most people, when they train for like a 100-mile race, 50-mile race, it's, time on their feet or elevation, which, they can get used to, or even heat. You always talk
Sure.
to people with the Western, I got to get heat acclimated to jump in a sauna.
Oh, I get that.
How do you get,
Seriously,
prepared
I
up
used
for
to
this?
drive around in the winter with my windows down at night
And this still doesn't even,
with
touch,
sandals on.
touch the cold that you're going to get into,
No,
though.
but it's a head game.
Yeah.
And ultimately, does it really do anything physically to acclimate? No, probably not. But if it helps give you confidence, I'll stand on my head for 5 minutes every morning if it's going to increase my confidence level. Not some BS confidence, but if you really feel it's going to help you prepare, I'm on it.
It's that mental side
It's
of it.
just that mental thing, because it requires some sense of being engaged and some sense of kind of suffering, and that eventually will translate into a better attitude out on the trail. Because for my attitude is, at least for the Iditarod trail, like for the 350, if you can suffer through the preparation and the training, that's all you need, because the rest is downhill.
It's like the celebration of what you've done, right?
Yeah, because a lot of times like for the 1,000, I would go up to Monte Cristo, and I'd just do a 30-mile training run. Well, I get off work at say 6, and then by the time you get your gear, it's a production just to get up there. You got to pack your sled, get your gear, get your food, get your clothes, drive up there, unpack. By the time you get on the trail, it's 8 o'clock. Got to be back to work at 8. So, you do 30 miles, takes anything from 8 to 10 hours, depending on trail conditions and how you feel. And then you're back to the car, and you go home and sleep for a couple hours, and you go back and then you go to work.
So it's that mental
It's
awake.
just that mental grind. And it's that kind of mental grind that helps to get you ready physically and mentally for the race. Because when the race starts, you know you're ready. Like, you can lie to your friends.
Yeah.
You can lie to your spouse or your girlfriend or your boyfriend. You can't fake yourself out.
Yeah.
Like, you know you're ready, or you know that you're not ready. And when you know that you know you're ready, that's just a deeper knowing, a deeper understanding. Doubt, fear, uncertainty all goes out the window because you know you're ready. But you also, if you know that you know you're not ready, it's ugly.
Doomed from day one almost.
You're in trouble.
Yeah, especially that distance.
Yeah.
Especially there.
Yeah.
Because if you decide to bail at mile 40, well, you got 15 miles to the next checkpoint, and it could be minus 40. Or it could be minus 60. I mean, I've been in minus 60 wind chill.
I can't even fathom that.
You better be engaged, and you better love the adventure.
Right.
Because if you don't, you probably should do something different.
Yeah, you shouldn't even be there.
Yeah.
Well, and you have the cold, you've got the, being wet. I mean, you got all the elements of the weather. Is there other, I'm not familiar with the route, but I watch, there we go. Because I know someone's going to ask that, or someone's thinking that right now.
I seriously have people like, so when you're up there, did you pan for gold? No.
No, they didn't.
Did you go fishing? Yeah, dude.
They go fishing?
Seriously? I had somebody like, do you pan for gold?
Because they've seen that show on the Discovery Channel.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's what you're going to do while you go up there.
I got a pan in my sled.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
doubles as a plate when I cook.
Like, I'm going to squat down and pan because I'm sure I'll be able to stand up really fast.
Because there's gold everywhere.
There's gold everywhere. So, yeah, seriously. Do you pan for gold? Do you fish? No, pretty much everything's frozen. Like, there's no salmon. There's no halibut.
Right.
Like, what am I fishing for?
Ice augers are too heavy to pull.
Yeah. So, no, I don't fish. No, I'm not bringing you home any fish. I'm not panning for gold. And they're like, well, what about the bears?
That's a question I would have, the
They're
bear
in
part.
sleeping.
Okay.
And they're like, well, what if they wake up? Well, what if? I mean,
we have the same problem here. I mean,
they're
run into a bear here.
Except their bears are
Mountain
big.
lion.
They
Yeah.
are big and very hungry.
So I'm like, well, they're not waking up.
Right.
It's possible, but
It's highly
not
unlikely.
highly unlikely. They're like, well, what about wolves? Like, well, what about wolves?
Well, that's what the rookies are for.
Exactly. Yeah. And they're like, do you carry a gun? No. What?
That's just extra weight.
I'm not buying a titanium 45 because one, I don't know how to shoot it. I don't have anything against guns. I just don't want to carry it. I don't want to buy it.
Right.
And I'm going to shoot myself. I'm not carrying a gun, So wolves, they're not going to bother. I've seen more wolves in Minnesota in the winter than I've seen in Alaska.
Huh.
Well, I don't see wolves, but I've seen more wolf tracks
Right.
in Minnesota at the Arrowhead 135 than I've ever seen in Alaska.
So what do you think about while you're out there for 20 days? Pretty much on your own.
Sometimes, there's a concept that's called mind wandering.
Yeah.
It's task unrelated thought.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I kind of somewhat think of about you have one foot in hypnosis,
Right.
and 1 foot in reality, and you kind of just toggle between the two. So sometimes I think about pace, I think about distance, I think about pain, I think about discomfort, I think about the environment, I think about other races I want to do, I think about successes, failures.
Right. You ever get to the checkpoint, you're like, how did I get here?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That happened. That happens a lot.
Right.
I remember
in that flow state. And
I remember leaving Elam at 11 p.m. at night, and the course just goes offshore onto the Bering Sea for a ways. And the moonlight, it was out. It was beautiful, clear sky. Moon was full. And I remember getting onto the ice, and the trail was really hard, and it was really fast. And the next thing I know, it's 6 a.m.
Wow.
And I've just been lost in thought. It was like just a beautiful 7 hours.
I was going to say, that's got to be
Yeah.
welcomed.
Yeah, and
that
then I
point.
realized what pulled me out of that was wind. It started to get really, really windy, and then
Snapped you back into it a
and I
little
kind of
bit.
got back into it. Yeah.
So
So you think a lot. I mean, I think those are things that all ultra runners think about: pain,
Probably.
discomfort,
Yeah.
pace, distance, environment.
Right. But that's on a different level. I mean,
But
like
it's the
100
same. But it's the
miles-
same thing, just longer.
Right. Exactly.
That's the thing.
So do you find that you're more fine-tuned at doing that now? Because you've done the 100, the 135, the 350, and the 1,000. Do you get into that state easier now?
Yeah. Yeah.
you're in it right now.
Well, it's the same kind of idea, and it kind of helps to have maybe a little ADD.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
you're just kind of there but not there.
Sure.
So that helps. I think I have a little bit of that, and I think you just have to enjoy, and then just enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
Just enjoy the scenery. Enjoy what you're doing.
Enjoy the
And
suffering.
be happy.
Yeah.
And be, I mean, there's so many people who don't have good health, that don't have the ability to be out there. So, for example, being out there for the 1,000, it's like I'm the luckiest guy ever to be here right now, doing this
Right.
is the best ever. Good, bad, suffering, pain. Every morning you put your shoes on, your feet hurt. Like not a little, a lot. It
Right.
feels like somebody beat them with a bat.
Right.
Like your heels are sore, your feet are sore, your toes are sore. They may visually look kind of beat up, but there's a whole lot going on underneath,
Right.
pain-wise.
Does that get better as the race goes on? Do you just adapt to that, being on your feet for 50 miles a day?
Mentally, you do.
Physically, it's just never, just because of the cold, just because of the distance.
Because you're slowly just wearing yourself out.
Right.
Mentally, you're getting stronger, and perhaps some aspects physically you're getting stronger. But I lost 18 pounds in 25 days.
Yeah.
I think,
Did you crave any food?
no. Well, no.
Did you get home, you're like, I gotta have the biggest steak ever.
No, no. I think for me, it was just be happy with what you got.
Okay.
Be happy with what you have food-wise. I would literally eat anything. Like if you gave it to almost anything.
Right. Pretty much.
Yeah.
I think that's a good lesson. I think a lot of our listeners or potential ultra runners really need to take to heart is just be happy out there.
You
whatever
have
you
to, and
got,
be,
right?
The other thing is
Whatever the aid station has,
Well, at the end of
just be happy with that.
stop whining. Don't
Yeah.
whine.
At the end of the
You
day,
can't.
you put
Don't.
yourself into that position. You signed up. You wanted
Right.
to be there. So when you're out there, why be miserable? I mean, you're going to be miserable,
You're gonna be miserable.
but not like, I hate it. I don't want to be here. That guy can come and go, but enjoy it while you're out there.
The other,
because
the other
you
thing
did this.
that I really, really learned is that a smile and a thank you and just be happy. Like, I don't care how bad you feel. You've got to be happy. Like, that's the rule. Like,
Right.
you just have to smile. Physical action speeds mental acceptance.
Right.
That's the way it is.
So
That is absolutely key.
That's great advice for anybody.
Physical action
Whether
speeds
whatever
mental
you're doing, not
acceptance.
even running, not
Right.
even.
I mean, I remember
activity.
how badly I felt at mile 75, my first Wasatch, when I walked into the Brighton. Back then, the aid station was at Brighton store, and I was, it was a mess. But I remember thinking, I've got to be positive. I've got to be smiling, and I was obnoxiously enthusiastic.
Like, what is wrong with
Somebody
this?
thought I was on drugs. and when I'm at the Bear and I'm running around half naked in the middle of the night, it's because I'm having fun. Like, I don't care what other people are thinking.
Yeah.
I'm coming in and I'm having fun. I want to be enthusiastic, and I've been accused of being on drugs. It was like, I think he was on drugs. It's like, no, this is
Natural.
real, man.
Yeah.
This is real. You've got to be you have to love it, and if you don't, just fake it.
Just for a moment.
Just
at
for a
least.
moment in
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And it changes your brain chemistry. And I think ultimately you can change brain function and brain structure by just thinking positive, good, happy thoughts of gratitude and just being super happy with what you've got.
It's great.
Just being great. You got to be just grateful.
And that's with anything too. I mean,
It
it makes a
is.
huge difference. I mean,
It
parents here, right? I mean,
Marriage,
with your kids,
job,
everything.
Yep.
bad boss,
Yeah.
whatever. You still just have to be happy and smile. It makes a difference.
Well, and
Always.
and just switching a little bit, because a lot of people ask, there's, we have actually, Curtis Thompson's here. He's listening live at the
Yeah.
park with us and just looking around. So some of us have done 100-milers, well, all of us here have, and you get people that maybe don't know or getting into it, and they're like, well, so a marathon's probably nothing for you. You've done 100 miles. Well, they're two different beasts, but I can honestly look at you and say, okay, you've done the Iditarod 1,000, not just the distance, but everything else. So now you do Wasatch or you do the Bear. I'm not going to say it's easy for you, but it's just got to be a completely different game and mindset.
It is.
I mean, because some people say, well, I've done a 50, I can probably do 100. Or, doubt in your mind to finish 100 is just almost non-existent. Am I right? I mean, you can do it.
I wouldn't say doubt. The level of doubt that you have is going to be basically the higher your doubt is because you haven't prepared mentally, physically.
Everything.
So as your preparation, as you learn what you need to prepare physically, mentally, as you know that, and as you go through that, then your level of confidence rises. As your level of confidence rises, then doubt, uncertainty, fear. I can't remember where I heard it, but fear, false evidence appearing real.
Oh, yeah. I like that.
Is oftentimes that's what fear is. It's just false evidence.
Right.
It's maybe our own insecurities. We perceive it as maybe a potential fear, but it's probably not as big of an issue as we think it is. So I always like to think of that fear as false evidence appearing real, because that makes sense to me.
Right.
And the other thing that I think is super important for anyone, whether they're just a beginning ultra runner, is you need small motivational sentences that you can pull out of your head when you're feeling sorry for yourself.
So what's your favorite?
I like things like, a mind once stretched never regains its original dimensions.
Wow.
That's true.
And that's true.
Yep.
It's true if you fail, and it's true if you succeed, because you're not going to be the same.
Right.
You're going to have a different attitude, it's going to change hopefully your attitude for the better.
Right.
Your perspective, your work ethic, your ability to show gratitude, to people who provide assistance, whether it's at a checkpoint or just in life in general. You've got to be grateful.
Right.
Always. I mean, they've even shown that, showing gratitude decreases cortisol levels and stress hormones. But anyway, so I think a mind once stretched never regains its original dimensions is great, because again, that's with failure and with success.
Right.
I like there's no such thing as stop, only go.
Okay.
So just those one-liners,
Right.
whatever is meaningful to that person.
Yeah.
It could be a one sentence. It could be something like that. It could be, one of my favorites is, I can, I will, I must.
Right.
It's short, and it's to the point, and it's motivational.
Right.
Like, it gets you maybe past that hurdle.
Yeah. It's just that slight mental deflection.
Something like, I'm breaking ground where I've never broken ground before.
Right.
Right here, right now. I'm on it. I got it. Makes such a big difference. So that versus feeling sorry for yourself, no, it's a completely different. It's a completely different, emotional experience. If you're blaming somebody else, if you're blaming the weather, or if you're looking for a scapegoat, it's the issue of just take responsibility and enjoy it, the adventure.
Right.
And, look to yourself before you look to go blaming somebody.
I
But
think
just those
that's-
powerful thoughts,
Yeah.
they're really motivating.
I think that's a good lesson just to have in life in general, like you said.
I would agree.
It's pretty powerful.
Well,
So I'm not sure about you, but I wanted to change something real quick. Because we've talked a lot about the Arctic. And I wanted to touch briefly on a local race here. So was it last year or the year before you did Pony Express?
That would have
And
been
you
2014.
All your stuff. right?
Yes. I was actually signed up for the 1,000 Iditarod race in 2013,
Right.
2014. And I just wasn't feeling it. I'm like, my heart's not in it.
Right.
And if your heart's really not in it, if you know that you know your heart's not in it, don't do it.
So the Pony Express, for those of you that don't know it, it's on the historical trail where they ran the mail, right?
Yeah.
And this race has kind of a water station, maybe at like 25-ish, something like that, or maybe not even any. I don't know, but
I'm
it
not
has
sure.
one. It has one at 50 at the turnaround because it's out in the back.
Yeah, it's at mile 40 and
Right.
mile 60.
Yeah, and you have to have a crew, and the crew has to follow you.
Yes.
Right? That's the traditional way of doing it. And they provide you aid anywhere at that point along the course. But you fashioned a harness and you carried your own water and your own food. And so did you have like a little kid's bike trailer? How'd you do that?
Yeah, I had decided I wanted to do that probably January, February during the winter of 2014.
Right?
I had this idea to do all the hundreds in Utah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it would be really cool to just do the last one 100% self-supported.
Right.
So I had a kiddie bike trailer that I modified to just to pull.
Yeah.
And I used the same fanny pack as I used to pull my sleds in Alaska.
Is that similar to like a climbing harness? What's that like?
It's essentially a fanny pack with seatbelt webbing sewn on the sides at the hips
Okay.
with a little carabiner.
Right. Is
And
that
then-
something that you fashioned yourself, or
yeah,
is that okay?
No, yeah, it's something that I kind of fashioned, and
It's
then
custom made.
and then 5-foot aluminum poles attached with clamps, plumber's clamps,
Uh-huh.
to the frame of the bike trailer.
Right.
And then I kind of calculated out what I'd need calorie wise, food wise, water, so forth, and I don't know how much it weighed. I'm thinking about 50 pounds or so.
How was that compared to dragging, in the
Through
Arctic?
the snow.
I'd rather be in the Arctic.
Really? Was it significantly harder?
Yeah, I think it was. Well, and I hadn't trained with it.
Okay.
I just show up.
Right. You're like,
I talked
And we
to David
do not
Crockett,
recommend
and I'm
that.
like, this is what I want to do, and he's like, okay.
did somebody else do this with you?
Yeah, Chris Anderson, a
Yeah.
good friend of mine.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
a local guy too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chris is kind of crazy like you are too.
Yeah.
And we had a it was really a good time. But it was we ditched those trailers at mile 40 for the 20-mile. It was like
Out
10
the
miles
out
out
and
and
back.
back.
Right.
So we ditched them because I'm like, there's no reason to carry it
No,
or
it's
pull
smart.
it. Just leave
Right.
it here. And we grabbed a couple bottles of Ensure
Yeah.
and some water and whatever, and went to the turnout and came back. But it was pretty rough. It took me a while to recover.
So what
And-
was what hurt then? Was that like back sore, hip sore?
No,
quad,
I'd
calf?
sprained my knee the week earlier. I went up and did a 13,000-foot peak between the Bear and the Pony Express, and I
Yeah.
fell at 13,000, twisting my knee. It was not good. And 3 days before the race, I was still limping.
Only got 100 miles pulling.
I know.
that
I wake
sled.
up Tuesday morning and I'm like, 72 hours before the race. This is not good. I'm struggling to get up the stairs.
Right.
And so I did some physical therapy, and it's not going to do much. And
No.
yeah,
72-hour time
wrapped
frame.
my knee basically, but I remember at mile what were we? We were at mile 60, and Davey comes driving by, and he's like, "You guys missed the cutoff." I'm like, what? There's a cutoff? Like, I didn't know those. He's like, yeah, no one's ever finished if they've left here later than midnight, and it was like 12:30.
Right.
So he's like, but you guys can go ahead and continue. But just so you know, no one's ever finished.
Challenge accepted.
I was like, yeah, we're getting it done.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's really, really what hurt me the most in recovery was busting out that last roughly 40 miles. And I finished in 26:59. But I was pretty motivated.
Sounds like it.
I was pretty motivated. Or maybe it was mile 68. I don't remember. I didn't really keep track of miles because I had all my stuff. I don't care
Yeah.
what the checkpoint the things are. Like that's just wasted energy.
True.
I got all the stuff I need right here.
Yep.
So I think it was maybe mile 68 when he said that. So I think I finished the last 32 miles in 7 hours.
That's really good.
I was
Pulling that
a
sled's
little
good.
pissed,
Yeah, I'm
actually.
sure.
I was like, dude, our trailers are getting lighter.
Yeah.
And I always run the second half faster. I shouldn't say always, most of the time.
Right.
But I was pretty hammered when I had done. It had been a long year. I mean, that was my 800 in 7 months.
Right.
And I was pretty tired.
Because that was the year you did all
Yeah, all
7
one,
in Utah.
Yeah, no
right?
pacers, no crew. That's the way to do it.
So that's your because we've done a couple shows on no pacer, no crew, as well as having a pacer and crew. So we've kind of hit both angles. But your thought or your philosophy is neither.
I think pacers can be distracting. I'd just soon be out just with me, just thinking out. You know, maybe I'm a little too much of an introvert. So I mean, I want to talk to racers. I want to talk to the people out there. I want to get to know them and see what their story is. And so pacers, I don't particularly really like pacers. Crews, okay.
But you just utilized the drop bags. And
I just did drop
stations.
bags only, yeah. So I did those 7, just drop bags only, no pacers, no crew, and then wanted to do the last one just solo. Not solo, but just unsupported.
Right.
And I would encourage people to do more of it. I like just the adventure side, figuring out, like, how am I going to do this? And it just makes it exciting to me.
It's a different level
It's
for sure.
It's a little different. It's not for everyone.
No.
I promise. But, come up with new adventures, new ways of doing things. Get out of your comfort zone. And it was a little bit out of my comfort zone because literally I hadn't tried it. I hadn't pulled a cart all summer. So we get there and Chris is like, these things rarely work, right? And it was literally at 10 o'clock at night. We're hooking up. We're literally getting screwdrivers and pipe clamps and hose clamps and I'd bought some stuff at Home Depot to make him one. He had borrowed a trailer, and we're putting his thing together. And he's like, Eric, this usually doesn't work. There's usually a really bad outcome here. But I'm like, Chris, between us, we have probably 75 years of
Adventure.
yeah. Whether it's kayaking or biking or canoeing or climbing or running or whatever athletic pursuit. We got this. We got, and plus he's an engineer. I mean, he's an engineer. He's one of the most brilliant guys I've ever met, and he's an MD as well. So I knew that between us we could figure it out, and we had a blast. Had a blast.
So what you talked about a little bit earlier in the show and different things. What's kind of on your bucket list? I mean, the 1,000 Iditarod to me would be like the cream of the crop, top of the bucket. But you're like, there's other things I want to do.
Right? Is there anything that's still motivating you to do it besides it just being awesome?
I've kind of always liked the idea of doing 100 hundreds. I'm at 66.
Okay, I can see that.
So
Yeah.
you got 30,
So
34 more to go.
I mean, I have to say the 1,000 counted for 10.
yeah.
So for people like, well, you didn't really do 100 hundreds. Well, I did 1,000.
I'd just smack them and
I mean,
say,
that's
I did 1,000.
roughly 100 every 60 hours.
Yeah.
So, if someone's going to say that, it's like, okay, well, you go do the 1,000.
Yeah.
Then we can talk about it.
Yeah, then we can talk about it.
And then see what your mindset is.
Yeah, and then, so 10 of those are the 1,000.
Right.
But so I'm at 66.
Wow.
So I'd like to have 100.
What do you got planned for this year?
I signed up for Bryce Canyon last week.
And that's what, in 3 weeks?
That's like
It's 4 weeks.
4
It's
weeks away.
Father's
Yeah.
Day weekend.
Yeah.
The thing is about the 1,000 is that, a mind once stretched never regains its original dimensions. What they don't tell you is sometimes that's really painful
True.
to get your mind stretched. And the more stretching, it can be a good thing, and most of the time it is a good thing, but it can be emotionally painful and physically painful. When someone asked me on Sunday, we were watching golf, which is wonderful to take a nap to, because the music makes you feel like you're in The Man from Snowy River riding a horse someplace.
And the commentators have got he's approaching 9. It's a
wonderful.
right to left.
It's like Ambien. But anyway, let's see. My ADD. What were we?
So you got
Sunday,
Bryce.
you're watching
Oh, yeah,
golf.
So you got
yeah.
Bryce
Bryce.
this year.
Well, no. So mine once expanded. I got really bored when I got back from the 1,000 because it's such an amazing experience physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. You learn so many amazing things about yourself and about people and just the universe and where you fit. And you think about your successes and your failures, and you have a lot of time to think. It helps to put things in perspective. So that mind expansion can be really painful, but I was really bored when I got back. Like, just bored. And I was thinking about doing Salt Flats because I actually love that course. I remember talking to Tom Remkes and Corey Johnson. They're like, "God, dude, that course is horrible. It's just, oh." And I went and did Salt Flats 2 years ago, and I love it out there. That's like a jewel of a race. Anyway, so I thought about doing that, and I'm like, I don't think I'm fully recovered after 5 weeks, or maybe it was 4 weeks. I don't think that's a good idea because in my heart of heart, I'm like, I don't think you're ready. Because my feet were still kind of numb and my hip was still not cooperating fully. And so I didn't sign up for that, but I'm like, I got to do something. I got to have a goal. So I signed up for Bryce, which is great. I mean, Matt does just, it's a great course. Out and back, one of the most beautiful hundreds around, period. Anybody that's done it, they'll tell you. I mean, Kurt was there doing one of the races. I can't remember, in 2000.
50 mile.
50 mile, yeah. It's just awesome.
Me and Joel are heading down this year, too.
Yeah.
And then I signed up for the Bear. Again, I signed up for the Bear in, I don't know, November. I'm starting to get the itch to do Wasatch again. I haven't done it since 2014. And when I start missing a race, then I know it's probably time to sign up. If I don't miss it, I don't want to do it.
Right.
Because then what motivates you? I mean, to keep going or keep trying these different things? What's your ultimate motivator to do that?
Because
Boredom?
it's fun.
All right.
No.
It's just fun. Like, you meet just great people. Chris and I have done 3 Wasatches together. We've done a couple Bears together. We did Pony Express together. And some of the greatest people, my closest friends, are people that I share the trail with.
Right.
In 2012, I signed up for the Iditarod 350, just more out of a reflex. I didn't even really want to be there that year. So I show up and I call my daughter before, and she's like, "Dad, I miss you so much. I wish I was there." And I'm like, "Oh, I shouldn't have called her. That was bad." Super distracting. But I got there and I took off, and like mile 5, I'm like, "Nah, this isn't working for me." So I went maybe another 20 miles, bivvied. Got up and turned around and walked back to the start.
Wow. Well, I mean,
It just wasn't. It's like the trail went silent.
Right.
And when the trail goes silent, I'm done.
That's a good way to do it.
When it's not speaking to me, I don't feel it, I'm done. So as long as the trail speaks, I'm going to be there. But the trail speaks to people different. It could be the challenge. It could be friends. It could be staying in shape. It could be the fun of having success after a lot of hard work. It could be the challenge. People have their different motivations. For some people, it might be a spiritual journey, physical, emotional, mental. But when the trail goes silent, I'm done. When I'm not having fun, and, I think I'll just won't show up. Or I'll go out 5 miles and turn around and walk back to my car and drive away, and that's it, man. But as long as I'm healthy.
Why not?
I'm 50 now. I don't see that I'm going to slow down anytime soon. I want to go back and do the 1,000 again.
And you've done that twice? Once, okay.
Well, I kind of made a feeble attempt in 2007, but I'd just like to forget about it. It was just, I would have never finished. I wasn't emotionally, physically mature enough of an athlete to do it.
And you said when you got back this year, like, what is a recovery like from a 1,000-mile Arctic journey? Because
good question. I was the 15th person ever to have completed the 1,000. So 4 of those have done it 2 or more times. Wow. Tom Jardine, also known as Tundra Tom, amazing, great guy. He's done it twice. One of the couple things, he lives in Pittsburgh though, so I don't see him. But I've wanted to ask people what their recovery was like because my short-term memory was shot for about 2 weeks when I got home. Physical stress, mental stress, sleep deprivation, I don't know, all of the above, I'm sure.
Right.
It was bad. It was no good. I think mentally it takes a bit to recover, and you kind of have to digest what you just did from a success point of view. That takes a little bit of thought, and then just physically, there's just not that many people that have done it. So I'm like, I don't know what recovering from 1,000 is. I've never done it. But I think it's about 6 weeks.
Wow.
I'm about 6.5 weeks out now, I think. And yesterday I did like a 10-mile trail run just here in Ogden, and I felt normal again. Like my balance, my speed, my coordination, I felt the same. Like I did.
You're back.
Yeah, but I think it took like 6 weeks.
Right.
100, I think recovery for me, 3 weeks, done fully, 100%, and probably stronger.
Now,
2 weeks is pushing it.
When you approach a 100-mile race, say it's the Bear this year or whatever, do you go into these with any type of goals? Like, you've done
have fun.
Yeah, that's your main goal.
Yeah,
and the time
I'm
is
having
just
fun.
irrelevant.
No. I kind of have a goal like, it'd be nice to finish in 28 or 29, but that's still secondary to having fun.
Because everything else works itself out after that.
Everything else works itself out amazingly. Because then you're not pigeonholed into like, I got to get to Cali Canyon, or I've got to get to, Brighton at this time. Because then it's almost too rigid.
Well, it seems like, too, because I've definitely been there, guilty, but it takes energy away from what you're doing stress-wise, too, because you're focused. Like you said, you run without a watch.
I think it's better if athletes say, I would like to be at Brighton between 2:30 and 3:15. Offer some flexibility. Give yourself some slack.
Always.
Don't say there, I got to be there by 3.
Yeah.
Because then it's too rigid, and then you're preoccupied with being there by 3. So
Right.
say, 2:30 to 3:30 is going to about work for me.
Right.
Give yourself some slack. But yeah, it's still, I just think you just have to really enjoy being out there, and don't be in a hurry. There's so many people that leave 100 in a hurry. Walk. Slow down.
I've never
enjoy
had a
it.
problem with that.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. Because I guarantee when you start passing people at mile 50 or mile 60, it feels good.
Yeah.
And then you've got left in the tank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember in 2011 at Wasatch, just after sessions, you go through the switchbacks up through the trees, and then you kind of get out in the open. I was hurting bad, really, really bad. And these 2 yahoos come up behind me, and they're making all sorts of noise. They're talking loud. They're having a lot of fun. And I was hurting. I was mad. And I'm like, God, who are these guys? Here comes Eric and Chris behind me.
Serious?
Having the
2011?
just having the best time of their lives. And I was so just grouchy. I'm like, "Arr," and they just blew past me, just having the best time. That was one of the things that really have stuck in my mind since then. And I have never met you.
Yeah.
But I knew who they were.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so he's speaking the truth.
Yeah.
I've seen it in action.
Oh, that's cool because we that's where I met Chris in 2010.
Yeah.
He'd went out too fast.
Right.
I'm like, Chris, we got this, buddy.
Yeah.
Like, we got it, dude. You can go under 30. He's
Yeah.
like, oh, I can't. I'm just too tired. I'm like, no, you're good.
Yeah.
Hang with me. We'll have fun.
Yep.
And we finished in 28 and change or something. I don't know.
That's awesome.
But that's right where I met him really, really for the first time to hang out.
Yeah.
Was right there as you drop down off sessions and
Yeah.
then you kind of start to climb back up out.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that was a great year. But it's that kind of fun. Be a kid. Be crazy. Have a beer at mile 30. Take a shot of whiskey.
Yeah.
Whatever. We did that in 2000. What year was that? Todd came down. They had whiskey at what checkpoint? Mount Logan at the Bear.
Right.
It's like 8:30. They have a bottle of Jack sitting on the table with a shot glass.
I miss that every time I've done
Okay.
the Bear.
Yeah, you gotta. Well, I'm not sure. Maybe
I gotta find that
they
right
didn't get
person.
invited back or something. I don't know. But it's like be crazy. So we took. Be silly, have fun, good time. Don't take it too serious.
I think that's a great way to end.
Yeah.
Right?
And I know just from what we've done, we're definitely going to have you back on the show. We're gonna
I'd love to.
Yeah, because it's
we can talk about all sorts of topics.
Oh yeah, because I mean, just what you've done, and it's kind of interesting. I've had conversations even with Curtis, is just how, and maybe this isn't the best way. You kind of fly under the radar because you're not like active on social media and all
Right.
these things. It's like people know like who you are, but I knew who you were. I mean, my friend Scott Jaime.
Oh yeah, I love Scott.
yeah,
he paced me in 2003.
Yeah.
At Wasatch.
Well, you're the one that got him into this pretty much, and he's the one that got me into this. So I've known about you for so long, and I didn't know the extent of it until I went online and I started doing some research. I'm like, oh my gosh, you've done it all, like literally. The race is all over the country, the big ones. So to have you on the show and some of the stuff you're bringing to us is kind of fresh and new. Far as just enjoy it. Be in the moment and all these things. And I know a lot of people are going to get stuff from this, and I know we're going to get more questions, so we definitely want to get you back on the show for sure.
The other thing is, set a goal. Make a goal. Make a goal. And, and I've mentioned this when I was at Gear 30 a couple weeks ago. We all know that they're important, but I think it's worth reiterating that it creates structure out of chaos, because all the stuff we do all day is chaos. We have cell phones, we have bosses, we have spouses, we have kids, we have all the demands, and it's chaos. But when you create a goal and a plan to reach the goal, it makes chaos less chaotic and creates structure, and it gives you a sense of purpose and a destination.
Right.
So important. So important.
Well, I know Joel, he just started being more structured with his training, and he's crushing it right now too. So
Well, let's not go that far and say I'm crushing it. I'm feeling better than I have in a long time. How's that?
that's all it takes.
But anyway, I think that's just really important to know what a goal is, but to maybe understand what it does is better.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, yeah, and we'll definitely on the website and on all our social stuff. It sounds like you'll probably be back at Gear 30 doing another engagement
sometime in July.
Sometime in July, we'll definitely make sure that we put that so people don't miss that. But we can't thank you so much. I know it's your day off, so thanks for taking the time to join us today. It's been a pleasure for us. It's literally been an honor to hear you talk and hear what you've done. It's motivational. I mean, I want to go out and run right now, and I brought my flip-flops, so I might do the Tarahumara method. So, but thanks for joining us. We'll have you back on, and hope to hear from you again.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Thank you for listening to the Trail Manners podcast. We'd like to thank Eric Johnson for taking the time to join us today. What an amazing show. So much insight, so much information. I personally hope I can take a lot of that with me. Thank you so much, Eric, for joining us. And thank you. We hope you all enjoyed our show. We'd like to encourage you to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Trail Manners, or swing by our website at trailmanners.com. We have a contact page. Let us know what you want to see, who you want to hear, or even if you want to be on our show. So until next time, this is Eric Manning with Joel Hatch reminding you, you don't get what you wish for, you get what you work for. Now go get it.